Okay, so it's time to bring up the elephant in the room. And if you haven't already noticed, there's this giant cavity in the bottom side of the board. Originally, I wasn't going to talk about it. I was just going to pretend like it never happened and hide it in post-editing. But I figured maybe by talking about it, it might help one or more of you not make the same mistake that I just made. But it's also quite common, and that is to use old epoxy in your projects. Now, the epoxy I used, it wasn't that old, and I thought I took the proper precautions. It was kept at room temperature. I mixed it up quite good before I used it, and I even heated it before I used it. But after I was done to pour, I noticed there was quite a bit of sediment left over in the hardener side of the epoxy. I waited 5 days for it to harden, and after the 5th day, it was still very soft to the touch. At that point, I decided to find a local guy with a CNC router. I took it to him and he was able to router out the huge mess I just made in the bottom side of the board and then rerouter the checker pattern into the top. That whole mistake was kind of a blessing in disguise because the whole time I was working on this panel, it had a huge warp to it. Now, I would straighten it out one way and it would warp the opposite way. I would straighten it out again, it would warp again. So what I decided to do is I'm going to laminate a piece of aluminum to the underside of the board. Now this will hopefully help eliminate that warp. It will also hide this cavity in the bottom side of the board. Now I generally don't like to throw out my pieces when I make mistakes. I try to salvage them as best as possible. I feel like you almost learn more by trying to salvage a bad situation than you do by throwing it out and starting fresh. And that's what happened in this scenario. So let's hope that it's the only mistake I make on this project, and let's see how this aluminum turns out.